So now we'll go to the question answers. We'll go back to the first page, page number 32. It says, a young seagull is afraid to fly. How does he conquer his fear? This is, I think we are in a position to answer this question. You have to explain how he was so afraid that he could not fly from that plateau to the other side of the sea, and how his mother, his father, and two brothers and sisters was encouraging him. They did manage to come back on the first day and give him some food, but then the mother decided not to listen to him, and how the struggle to convince her baby to fly as a seagull, and how did the seagull conquer that fear. You have to write all that in 100 words, 120 words. Okay, now then let's go back to page number 36. It says, why was the young seagull afraid to fly? Do you think all young birds are afraid to make their first flight, or are some birds more timid than others? Why do you think the seagull was afraid to fly? Why? Because the seagull was afraid to fly because he assumed and thought that if he flies, his feathers are going to break, and he would not be able to maintain the balance, and he is going to dive down and die. Do you think all seagulls are afraid? No, afraid? Not necessarily, I think. I think everyone has different characters, so maybe some are, some are not. You can write what you feel about it. Do you think a human baby also finds it a challenge to take its first steps? If you have seen babies, how they take steps, you can write that. So, in totality, I want you to write the first part. Why was the young seagull too afraid to fly, in 40 words? And the second word in 40. So, in totality, 80 words. So, the sight of the food maddened him. When the baby seagull saw that his mother is carrying the food, but she's not giving him the food. She's flying in the air, and she's just so close to the baby seagull, and the way she's tearing the fish, like how the baby seagull loves to tear his fish. What does this suggest? What compelled the young seagull to finally fly? The sight of her mother scraping, tearing the fish and eating it, not eating but tearing the fish, and trying to convince him to come and fly, compelled him so much, because he was so mad, he was so angry, and he was so hungry, that because he had not eaten the other night, forced him to jump and dive on the fish, on the fish that his mom was carrying in her beak. But this was a way from of her mother to teach her baby to fly. So you have to write that in 60 words. Question number 3. They were beckoning to him, calling shrilly. Why did the seagull's father and mother threaten him and cajole him to fly? The when the family is sleeping and resting on the other side of the sea, they are scolding him, threatening that they are going to leave him and they'll go. And at the same time, they are trying to show him different tactics and different ways to fly in the sky, with all different ways, so that it will encourage the baby seagull to fly with his brothers and sister and his mom and dad. So you have to write that in 65 words. Have you ever seen a similar experience, question number 4, where your parents encouraged you to do something that you were too scared to try? So this is one of your experiences where you were struggling to do something, and then finally you succeeded with constant encouragement from your parents in 120 words. Question number 5. In a case of a bird flying, it seems a natural act and a foregone conclusion that it should succeed. It's a physical feature. Birds have to fly. In the examples you have given in answer to the previous question, in question number 4, where your parents are teaching you to learn to do something new, was your success guaranteed, or was it important for you to try regardless of a possibility of a failure? Did you try that instant where you were struggling to do something? Did you try that because you knew that you are going to succeed, or did you try that because you knew that there is There are two faces of success. One is success and the other is failure. Failure does not mean that you are going to stop it, you will stop there. Failure means that there is always a chance to improve yourself. What is your perspective and idea about that? About these two ideas, you have to write that in 200 words. Very interesting question. Basically, when I'm asking you to write something, all the written work and this is just a way to analyze and encourage your writing skills. This is where you will be in a better position to sharpen your critical thinking and your critical writing skills also. So this is done. Then there's a writing part. Write a short composition on your initial attempts of learning a skill. When you were trying to learn a skill, maybe you learned to ride a bicycle for the first time. Anything that you learned as a skill, as a young boy or a young girl, you could describe the challenges of learning to ride a bicycle or learning to swim, and make it as humorous as possible, make it as funny as possible, so that it the so that I or the reader um, feels it, feels that it is very interesting. You have to make it very interesting. Write that in 300 words. So this should be submitted by, um, let's say, 15th of June. So when I see you guys tomorrow, we'll do the other section, the second part, the black aeroplane. Before we conclude, I'm just like to mention a couple of things. I'm not very happy with the way you are submitting your assignments. Most of you don't bother to submit your homework, and most of you are not participating in any projects. Understand this thing, that we are not doing it for fun. At the end of the academic session, if we are going to be like this, if I'm going to teach you virtually, or even in the future when I'm teaching you in the class, I'm not to be blamed for the marks that you will get for your assignments and your tests and for your projects. Whatever you are submitting, you'll be assessed on that. You guys don't even bother to, some of you don't even bother to respond when I'm uploading on Google Classroom, and I have never seen some of you speaking, in your projects. If it's a speaking project or submitting your homework, it's okay if you're late, by a day or two, 3 days, 4 days, for any reason, but then please try to submit your work. So then I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye bye.